Hey YouTube, Carrotswig here, bringing you all my Marshmallow Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile for September 2020. Been working on a type of Marshmallow deck for a good while now, just focusing on what I could do to make a deck that solely focuses on Marshmallow and all of the different forms we have for Marshmallow, which is just one other form, Marshmacaron. So big thanks to my girlfriend Marissa for helping me put together the deck. She had a good amount of all the different cards needed for the Marshmallow deck, which the deck focuses on just making use of Marshmallow not being able to take any damage from your opponent's attacks, being not able to be destroyed by battle, and then inflicting damage to your opponent every time they flip this card face up from being set on the field. I'm really happy with the results of what the purpose of the deck is, and just the fact that Marshmallow is an amazing card that was used by Yugi during the final season of the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Series. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the actual monsters in the deck, the most important one is Marshmallow, which we are running 3 of. The controller of a monster that attacks this face-down card takes 1,000 points of damage after damage calculation. This card cannot be destroyed by battle, and damage calculation is applied normally. So as long as you have Marshmallow face down, your opponent flips it up after attacking into it, it'll take 1,000 points of damage, and then you can just sit on your Marshmallow not being able to be destroyed by battle. If you want to flip it face down again, we have other options with our spell cards that we run in the deck, so then you can use the Marshmallow with all the other different monsters we run in the deck to go for different link summons, basically getting out more options for you to recycle the cards back to your hand to reuse, and then just having it set up in the graveyard to special summon back out onto the field. So you definitely want to run 3 Marshmallow being your main go-to card. You want to have as many options as you can to open this card up, and if you can get more and more multiple Marshmallows on the field, it's just a bigger wall for your opponent to get over as well. For the other version of Marshmallow, we are running 3 Marshmacaron. If this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon up to 2 other Marshmacaron from your hand, deck, and or graveyard. You can only use this effect of Marshmacaron once per turn. So with our play being to recycle Marshmallow, to reuse for plays, you want to have monsters to link summon with it. That's where Marshmacaron comes in, since you always have the option to summon out 2 onto the field. If you want to play more defensively against your opponent, they'll attack into these, since you can only use the effect of Marshmacaron once per turn. You'll have more and more resources to use on the field, so if you at least keep 1 Marshmacaron on the field, you can always special summon the other ones back from your graveyard, but also just being able to use them for link plays. If you have additional Marshmacarons, you can use 1 Marshmacaron and 1 Marshmallow on the field for a link summon, then keep the other one if your opponent were to destroy it to get 2 more from your graveyard back onto the field, again to use later on next turn. And then just more resources for other monsters to help support the deck as a whole. I run 3 Shining Angel. When this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 light monster with 1,500 or less attack from your deck and face up attack position. Now you can go for another Shining Angel if you wish, but the big play would be to search out any of your other monsters, which we are running. Marshmallow won't get the burn effect from being summoned, since it'll be in attack position, and you do, will be at risk with this card in attack for your opponent just attacking it repeatedly. But then you'll just have Marshmallow out on the field that much quicker to use with Shining Angel, and like I said, you can either then switch it to defense position to play more defensively, or use it for a link play and then have one of our other spell options to special summon it back onto the field face down as well. So 3 Shining Angel is just great as another resource with all the different fairy monsters. It was also a big focus of the deck to focus on fairies for the main monster choice in the main deck for sure. So 3 Shining Angel is just another good monster to rely on for all of those plays. Another one being for more of an offensive strategy are 3 Honest. Now the one play I do like, which I'll show at the end of the video, just makes it so you can bait out your opponent with Marshmallow and Honest after using your Shining Angel, and just as the defensive play to hit over a good amount of your opponent's other monsters using Honest from your hand as the hand trap to boost up your light monsters attack on the field, which we are running a good amount of different light monsters in the extra deck to rely on as well whenever we want to go for the overlay plays, relying on Honest and Shining Angel for these, since they're both the level 4 options. We have rank 1 options for Marshmacaron as well, not so much anything really for Marshmallow being a level 3 and it being the main focus on the field for the attacks our opponent will do also. And then just for a more defensive strategy against our opponent, I'm also running 2 Barrier Statue of Heavens. No monsters can be special summoned except for light monsters, which is not a problem with any of the cards we run in the deck being all light fairies. And also having Barrier Statue of Heavens be a fairy monster is just another good option to rely on to stop a good amount of our opponent's plays depending on the type of deck they're running. If they're running a deck that focuses on, light monsters, then you can, side deck this card out for another option in the deck that you run. And then another monster, a more, powerhouse monster to run, I run 2 Archlord Christia. If you have exactly 4 fairy-type monsters in your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand. If summoned this way, target 1 fairy monster in your graveyard, add that target to your hand, and either player can special summon monsters. If this face-up card be sent from the field to the graveyard, you can place it on the top of the deck instead. So being able to recycle back our fairy monsters is a good part of this card being run in the deck, but also the fact that you need exactly 4. It's very easy to manipulate the graveyard with the amount of fairy monsters we'll have. Just being able to special summon back Marsh Macarons onto the field, depending on how many we have on the field, can also determine how many fairies are currently in the graveyard. And then being able to send more and more of them to the graveyard for other extra deck plays means we can basically set it up perfectly to summon out Archlord Christia onto the field and then just shut down more special summon plays from our opponent altogether than we would normally from Barrier Statue of Heavens. And lastly, for the monsters, I run 1 Hecatrice. This is just for the search for adding Valhalla, Hall of the Fallen from our deck to our hand, an easy special summon spell card for our fairy-type monsters we run in the deck, and then also being able to then adjust the number of fairy monsters with Archlord Christia, being able to discard Hecatrice if we're just 1 card short in the graveyard to special summon out Christia from our hand. And that is it for the monsters. We'll now move on to the spells. I run 3 Marshmallow Glasses, one of the true support cards for Marshmallows. With it, while this card and Marshmallow are face up on your side of the field, your opponent cannot select a card other than Marshmallow as an attack target. So if you have Marshmallow on the field in defense position, your opponent can attack any of your other monsters, making it safe for you to summon out, let's say, your Barrier Statue of the Heavens, meaning your opponent can attack over this card since they have to rely on attacking Marshmallow with Marshmallow Glasses on the field. And the same will go for any of the other ones if you want to protect your Marsh Macarons from being attacked by your opponent, so you can use them more for extra deck plays. So it's a great defensive strategy. I run 3 of it since it is the main focus of the deck being a Marshmallow deck. So you have enough copies of this card because good chance your opponent's going to try and destroy this card so they can get over some other monsters on the field and not have to rely on just copiously attacking into your Marshmallow altogether. For more special summon power, I also run 3 Valhalla, Hall of the Fallen. Once per turn, you can special summon 1 fairy-type monster from your hand. You must control no monsters to activate this and resolve this effect. So with it, if you control no monsters, you can special summon Marsh Macaron from your hand onto the field, and then save your normal summon for setting Marshmallow on the field, giving your opponent the choice of whether they'd want to attack into the Marsh Macaron and give you 2 more from your deck, or hand or graveyard, or attack into the face down, risking it being Marshmallow and then taking battle damage that way. The choice is theirs, but just good setup for all the other different fairies we run in this deck as well. And the big spell card for special summoning Marshmallow back onto the field, I run 3 The Shallow Grave. Now you do give your opponent a resource with this card, but it is just so needed for the playstyle of your deck. Each player targets 1 monster in their own graveyard. Each player special summons that target from their graveyard in face down defense position. So this was basically meant for the purpose of Marshmallow, just being able to use your Marshmallow for the special summon, special summoning it back onto the field to use, and then having your opponent either not attack into this card or, just wait and see if you're going to use it for a resource of your own. But 3 Shallow Grave always gives you the resource for this. I don't run Monster Reborn or Back to the Front because they all special summon Marshmallow to the field in face-up attack position or defense position, which is not what you want to do with this card. You want to summon it in face-down defense position, which giving your opponent that resource is, risky sometimes, but they can't summon any other link monster since it has to be in face-down defense position, so you're not, giving them that kind of power play. Whatever they'll summon out, you should be able to handle with all the other plays you can do in this deck. And to make sure your opponent will attack into your Marshmallow, I run 2 Savage Colosseum. If a monster attacks its controller, it gains 300 life points at the end of damage step. So whoever's attacking with the monster will gain 300 life points. If able, all monsters must attack if able. And during the end phase, destroy all face-up attack position monsters the turn player controls that did not declare an attack. So with this, if your opponent has their attack position monsters set up on the field, they will have to attack into your Marshmallow Marshmallow being your face-down monster, attacking into it and taking damage, and Marshmallow will not be able to be destroyed by battle. They'll gain life, but also they might not want to put too many monsters in attack position, because if you have multiple face-down Marshmallow on the field, they'll take more damage than they'll gain back with Savage Coliseum. And I also run the 1 Terraforming to be able to search out this field spell. So I only run 2, though. It doesn't give you any pluses. That's why I'm not running a max of 3. Just 1 Terraforming with the 2 Savage Coliseums is plenty enough to basically recycle this card easily and then out the deck. And with the Barricade Board Blocker, we have the option to add it back to reuse also. And also, to finish off the spells, I run 3 Call by the Grave, just a good hand trap to rely on, because you do special summon a good amount, so you don't want to rely on your opponent using any hand traps to stop you, so 3 of this is definitely needed in the deck for sure. And I also run 1 for 1, just to special summon out one of our go-to Marshmallow-related monsters, which is Marsh Macaron, onto the field. And for the trap cards, I run 1 Beckoning Light. You discard your entire hand, and for each card you discard to the graveyard by this effect, add 1 light monster from your graveyard to your hand. So if your opponent is able to dwindle down your Marsh Macaron resources, or even your Marshmallows in your graveyard, and you want to add them back to your hand, this card's great for discarding unnecessary cards. Let's say you have multiples of the field spells, or no Shallow Graves left in your hand. You name it, you can discard them with Beckoning Light. Just adding at least 1 Marsh Macaron back to your hand gives you access to the rest of it in the graveyard as well. Setting them up on the field, if you have Valhalla of the Fallen on the field, is another good option to add. You can change around the numbers of Beckoning Lights you want to run in the deck based on the other traps I am running, which are 3 Storming Mirror Force. Now this is in here mostly for the fact that if my opponent's going to attack into my Marshmallow with a monster that will immediately destroy it, I want to protect it in a way that Storming Mirror Force will just return that monster to the hand, buying me more time for my opponent to attack with another monster. So this is just good defense to stop my opponent's monsters without having to worry about any of my life points. That's why I'm not running the Solemn Brigade over this card. If you wanted to drop down the number of this for more Beckoning Lights, this could be the number of cards you take out for that spot. And the last trap I am running are 3 Magic Cylinder. This could be the burn damage to finish off your opponent. You can run either Magic Cylinder or Ring of Destruction in this spot. It's player preference at that point. If your opponent has the monsters you want to destroy, Ring of Destruction will help, but you'll both take the damage, remember that. But Magic Cylinder, if your opponent has to attack, this is just another good card to burn away their life points with Savage Coliseum, making them attack. They'll take burn damage from Marshmallow, but if you also don't want them to attack into that, they have the option to then just summon out more monsters also and take that burn damage that way. But that is it for the main deck. We'll now move on to the extra deck. I run 1 Hippo Shenanigans, being the light resource. Most of the time I go into to recycle monsters, but also just if I have a face-up Marshmallow, link summon with it, and then hopefully recycle it back onto my hand to use after this card is gone. 1 Barricade Board Blocker for the field spell recycle, which I spoke of earlier already. 1 Underclock Taker, just a good powerhouse to reduce my opponent's monster's attack. 1 Nightmare Cerberus, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Cross Sheep, 1 Akashic Magician. For the Link ones, I run 1 Link Karibo for the Marsh Macaron plays when it's necessary. It definitely does come in handy. 1 Clara and Rushka. When you have set monsters, if your opponent's not going to attack into them, being able to send and just get another resource on the field for you to make use of is a big help for sure. And 1 Nightmare Unicorn for the rest of the Link monsters that we run. For the Xyz monsters, I run 1 Star Liege Paladynamo and 1 Bujinte Tsukiyomi. With the level 4 light monsters we run, it's just a good option to have for recycle power and just power plays when you need them. Also 1 Sylvan Princess Sprite for the rank 1 plays when we can make them. 1 Castel. This could be a Baguska or Tornado Dragon also if you wish. I just saw myself using this more and more for the return effect for some of my opponent's pesky cards. And the 1 Leviair if we ever banish any of our monsters, especially the Marsh Macarons. Being able to rely on this card by overlaying my Marshmallows to get them back to use is a big help for sure. So I always have my numbers of Marsh Macarons to use also. And then as for your go-to plays in the deck, we already spoke of the fact if your opponent for the first key play were to attack into your Marshmallow, you'll have this face-up monster on the field. So if you go for another monster for the summon, let's say you just normal summon your Shining Angel, you already have the Marshmallow play set up. You can then link summon both of these cards into a Link 2 monster, relying on the Hippo Shenanigans to add back one of them from your graveyard to your hand when it is sent to the graveyard, but also setting up your Marshmallow in in the graveyard, then gives you access to your Shallow Grave play to special summon it back onto the field. Your opponent having a monster as well, remember, in the graveyard to use, summoning it back onto the field for your opponent to attack into. And you can make this possible if you set up the Savage Coliseum play, meaning they'll have to attack this turn. If they attack into the Hip Hoshinengen, you can add back your other monster you use for the Link Summon. And if they have any additional monsters, they'll have to attack into your Marsh Milan, taking the burn damage, which will be more than the damage they'll initially take with the Savage Coliseum. And then next turn, if you summon another monster, you can repeat this whole Link Summon step all over again. And then with more Shallow Graves, special summon your Marsh Milan back onto the field again. Another one of my plays that I like, it revolves around the Shining Angel and the Honest Bait play, which if you basically have your opponent attack into your Shining Angel, if it's in attack position or defense position, they attack and destroy it, and then you summon out your Marsh Milan. They'll either take the risk, not knowing you have Honest in your hand, going for more of the damage. Since it will be in attack position, you drop Honest, they'll take more damage, destroying their monster, and the next turn you can switch Marsh Milan to defense position, or do the original play I spoke of, which is summon another monster, and then go for the Link 2 play. And then just being able to dwindle down more and more your opponent's life with the burn damage you can do, but most of the time relying on your Marsh Milan for those plays, while you rely on Marsh Macaron for the plays you could do with all of your Link summons. Even relying on it when you have Marsh Milan, if your opponent attacked into Marsh Macaron, giving you more and more copies, being able to summon out the same play we spoke of before, and then keeping your one Marsh Macaron on the field to use for its own destruction plays. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoy the video. I definitely enjoy focusing on these other monsters used by our main characters in the original series. Maybe one day we'll see more and more different Marsh Milans in different pastry forms that we'll use for future upcoming decks as well. But until then, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.